Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Sustainable Activism webinar on Embodied Love with Charlotte Cressey. I'm your host today. My name's Lisa Levinson. I'm the campaign director for the Sustainable Activism campaign, which offers emotional and spiritual tools for animal activists. And we're so excited today to welcome Charlotte Cressey, who is also a dear friend of mine. So I'll give you a little more information about her. So Charlotte Cressey has a master's in women's spirituality. She's an animal liberation activist and educator, Chopra Center certified meditation instructor, originator of Earth Energy Yoga, an ecofeminist, lover of life, and enthusiast for the many benefits of a vegan lifestyle and worldview. Her concern for animals began at 3 years old when she refused to eat meat after learning that it had once been a living being. Since then, she's been on a quest to understand how to inspire positive change in humans so that all animals may be free. Cressey believes in the revolutionary power of love and challenges the tendency to believe that cruelty is natural in the world. Through her company, Embodied Love, Charlotte provides presentations, courses, and earth energy yoga classes, which assist people in unearthing the infinite wellspring of joy, love, compassion, and wisdom within. She views veganism, mindfulness, and embodied movement as part of a larger goal to create a peaceful, harmonious existence for humans, animals, and the earth. You can connect with her at charlottecressey.com. That's CharlotteCressey.com. So thank you so much to Charlotte for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're thrilled to have this presentation, and I know that you'll be sharing a bit more about it with us. So it's my pleasure
Oh, you want me to go ahead and load it?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were going to say more about sustainable activism.
Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so grateful to you for everything you do. Can you see both my video and my presentation?
There's a little lag time, so it'll take a moment for it to actually show up here.
Okay. Uno momento. Okay. Well, thank you, Lisa, and thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm so honored that each of you is here. I'm so honored that you are committed to creating a better world for animals. And I want to say I really love the programs that Lisa has created, vegan spirituality and sustainable activism. These are aspects of creating a better world that are so important. So thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you to In Defense of Animals. So I'm here today to share with you about embodied love and to teach you how to embody love, and to teach you that you already are love embodied. And this is connected to veganism. So this presentation is going to be about personal, like on an individual level, and planetary transformation. So the way that we change ourselves is deeply connected to the way that we change the larger world. Now, the reason that I feel these things are so important and really going deep and questioning our underlying assumptions about who we are and what we're capable of is because if you just try to create a new world, you try to create changes, you try to change all the atrocities that are happening in the world, even if you try to change yourself, but you haven't changed the underlying belief system, the story about who you are, the story about who we are as humans, you won't be able to create lasting change. Superficial solutions bring temporary results. So this program is about sustainable activism, and I want to share with you about a way of thinking and feeling about ourselves as humans that can radicalize our ability to live our best life, to live our purpose, to live in joy, to live in peace and harmony with other beings. The reason this is so important and near and dear to me is because I've been in the animal rights movement for a long time. And I see lots of different tactics and lots of different approaches. And I so appreciate everything that everyone does for animals. So this isn't meant to be a criticism, but we need kind of new ideas about how to go about bringing about a better world. Too often, the underlying assumption from many activist groups and campaigns is that we will always have animal use abuse. The reality is we do not have to have the use of animals as part of our culture. And so oftentimes, because people are coming from this sense that, well, we'll never really create a better world for animals, people are always going to eat meat, so let's just add a few inches to the places of torture, their cages. Things like that, those half measures, those come about from the belief that we can't really create a vegan world. So I'd like to take a moment to define what it means to be a vegan in my view, because veganism is much larger than just what you eat. Veganism is not a diet, it is a way of relating. Now, you may have heard before that the way you relate to one being in one situation is pretty much the way you relate to every being in every situation. The way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So, the consumption of animals and the use abuse of animals, meaning not only eating them for food, but using them for entertainment, for pets, for their skins, things like that, all of those contribute to a way of relating that disconnects us from our embodied love and actually ends up causing a lot of problems for us as individuals. It's connected to the huge numbers of people who suffer from depression and unhappiness and a sense of disconnection from the world. So veganism is not a diet. It is a way of relating with love. It's about a new definition of humanity, a new story about who we are and what we are capable of. Some of you may have noticed that we are living the awakening times. I'm sure some of you are nodding your heads or feeling that sense of, oh my gosh, yes, what is going on? Many people actually might be thinking that these are the destruction times, right? Because we're starting to see so many catastrophes, violence just escalating and escalating, and people treating each other with cruelty. The egregious abuses inflicted upon animals just continue to grow, even as the vegan movement is doing our work to end the use and abuse of animals. So the reason that all of these things seem to be crumbling and things are getting worse is because the structures are changing. There is a major shift happening, and in order to create change, there's got to be some upset, some upheaval. If you think about, for example, the process of birth, there is pain, there is screaming. Things get messy, right? But I am of the belief, and I hold to the belief strongly, that we are ultimately creating heaven on earth. Now, what do I mean by heaven on earth? I'm not saying that we will have no suffering, no pain in life. That's part of life. However, we can shift to rightful relationship with animals. We can significantly decrease the amount of conflict in the world. We can truly live as love. So at this time, at this critical juncture, we are called to be lovers. Lovers of life, lovers of ourselves, lovers of the earth, and to work in harmony with her and with the animals. So I'd like to share a little bit with you about where I'm coming from with what I'm sharing. So my background is in women's studies and women's spirituality. And I come to feminism and women's studies from my own experience being a woman and wanting to recreate my story about who I am and what I'm capable of. I experienced a sense of um, unhappiness, low self esteem, lack of confidence, because I was indoctrinated into a culture. We all are. We're bombarded by the message, especially for women, that we're not good enough, that we have to be pretty, that's it, that we're decorative objects, all those things. So I got interested in feminism through my own desire to learn so I could heal myself, but also so I could help other women, and also so I could help animals, because the way that women and animals are treated is very much connected. So, like Lisa said, when I was a little girl, I was highly sensitive from the time I was born, and my best friend was my dog Whimsy, and we spoke the language of love. I could communicate with her, not necessarily in words, but in knowings, in a sense of understanding each other. And I could see through her eyes that she had a soul, that she was a person. Maybe not a human person, but definitely a person. So when I learned at age 3 that humans were killing animals for food, I was shocked, because my parents raised me to treat Whimsy like a member of our family. They taught me that her needs mattered. They taught me that she's a part of the family, that what happens to her is important. In other words, we are kind to her. We don't hurt her. She's included in family activities, right? So she matters to us, basically. So then sitting down to a meal and finding out that these animals don't matter. And I'd been seeing, the so-called farm animals, what we call farmed, F-A-R-M, F-A-R-M-E-D, farmed animals. That's the correct way of terming it, so that we understand it's something done to them. They are not naturally farm animals. So I had these toys with farm animals on them, and I thought they were just cute and great. And I started to notice that the names for the food and the names for the animals that I saw as, cute little toys and images of farms, they were the same thing. And I was just shocked. I couldn't believe that people were eating animals, because I thought animals were my friend. And so I believe that that awareness, that it was wrong, that I wasn't supposed to eat animals, that awareness I had at a young age was coming from a soul knowing. It was coming from my empathy, knowing that we don't have to eat animals. No one had to tell me, oh, well, technically you can be healthy and blah, 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 blah. You can be healthy being a vegan. I didn't need all that. It was an intuitive knowing. And that's part of the path of embodied love, is getting back to that empathic knowledge, the wisdom that's in every cell of your being. Our senses, our emotions, our feelings, our bodies are full of wisdom, full of information. Veganism is a part of returning to that. So I've been on this path a long time. I became a vegan after witnessing a goat get slaughtered when I was 12, and I couldn't save her. But I promised her that from then on, I would dedicate myself to saving as many animals as I could. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about some animal. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Some animal who you've known, who has been important in your life, and feel that sense of love in your heart. Feel that sense of love begin to fill your whole being. Think about what she or he looked like, acted like, or if they're still in this world, what they act like now, what their personality is like. Good. Now open your eyes. Thank you for joining me with that because we're bringing their energy into this conversation. So I would like to thank my parents for everything they've taught me. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see some people who have influenced my beliefs. A lot of the things I'll be sharing with you today are things I've learned from others. I don't think I have anything original, or at least not too original. I'm just so lucky to have learned from so many different great people. One who is not on that list is nature, meaning the many animals, many beings that I've met who have taught me so much. And so I come from a perspective of animal liberation, ecofeminism, which means ecofeminism is a theory which brings together the connection of the way that our culture treats women, animals, and nature. They're very interrelated, and we'll look at that later. Ecofeminism is also about revaluing cooperation, care, empathy, and love, recentering them as principles that matter. In fact, they matter most, rather than competition, disconnection, all those kinds of things. So obviously I come from a vegan perspective, and I include consciousness and spirit because it's a very real thing. We all are conscious beings. So I also come from the background of feminist research methods. What that means is that we value women's perspectives. If you look at history, the history of thought has been mostly what's gained the most attention has been the writing of men, but there have been great women writers and philosophers for many years. And so it's about bringing those back in the way that when we study the past and also in present times. We also like to revise what we believe to be true about history. Now, this is important to veganism because vegans have existed forever. There have been vegetarians forever, going back to Plato. In fact, Plato predicted this time. Plato said, if you eat animals, you will have wars for resources. He said that you will learn the ethics of violence and people will not know how to get along. Plato was a vegan, so a lot of great people were vegans. It includes feelings, and it puts at the center those voices who have previously been silenced, including animals. So indigenous research methods is a way of viewing the world, how it's unique from other thought paradigms is that we include the sacred, we include what is holy in what we're studying. We view spirituality as a source of knowledge. So it might include, for example, analyzing dreams, or maybe you had a unique experience with a deer in the woods, and that matters. That is knowledge. In the old paradigm of thought, your spiritual experiences didn't matter. They're not quantifiable. So any embodied experience is a source of knowledge. And integral pedagogy, which is focused on healing and wholeness, and it includes bodily knowledge, spiritual, and academic. So that's just a little background. Okay, so I want to ask you, where are you going? Where are you going in your life? Where do you want to go? That's the question we as humans need to be asking ourselves right now. Where do we want to go? Do we want to go toward creativity and well-being for all? Or do we want to go to destruction, more hate, more violence? So in order to reach that end point, you have to go back to the level of thought. Many of you are already familiar with this phrase, this quote from the Upanishads. Watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. So I would go back up to the top, the level of thought, and I would edit it to say, watch your thoughts, your feelings, because feelings inform your thoughts, and your postures. So this is where embodied movement comes into play, because the way that we hold ourselves says a lot about how we think about ourselves and about the world. And the way you think about yourself is connected to the way you think about the world. If you think that animals are here to be used and abused and treated as objects, and it's okay to oppress them or violate them, then you're more likely to find reasons to deny your own inner child, or speak cruelly to yourself internally. And so this then plays out in the way that we create the world. So something a lot of people say is life happens through us, not to us. Too often, we look at something that happens and we think, oh my gosh, they did that to me. And yes, we are in a world of cause and effect and we interact with other people, but there is a way in which the way that we think is actually creating our reality as well. It's a combination of forces coming together. So it happens through us, not to us. Through us, meaning that we have our own consciousness, we have our own lens, we have a way that we perceive the world. The way that you perceive the world is everything. It's everything when it comes to creating the best life possible. If you want to change your life, you have to change your perception of yourself. You have to clear the lens and the stories of what you're capable of. And it's very possible to change your trajectory. So I want to take a moment here to differentiate between destiny and fate. Okay, so this is something I learned from Lauren Francis. So fate is basically where it's your end point. If your current trajectory remains the same. So if you keep on the track you're on right now, you'll probably end up here. But destiny is where you could go if you change your trajectory, and you have the power to change your trajectory. So we all have to dream up a greater destiny for ourselves. When we eat meat, when we participate in the use abuse of animals, when we eat milk, dairy, eggs, when we buy pets for Easter, maybe for Easter someone buys a chicken or buys a bunny rabbit rather than rescuing an animal, thinking that it's okay to own animals. When someone buys leather, when someone hits a dog, when someone eats meat, they're reinforcing the idea that humans are naturally flawed, we're naturally violent, that might makes right. None of those things are true. Humans are naturally kind, positive, or have the potential to be positive, and we are powerful. So what we believe becomes our reality. So we really have to shift our thoughts and our belief systems in order to change our destiny as a collective humanity and as individuals. So I have a quote for you from Zig Ziglar, and this is in regards to the state of the world. You could look at all the things happening and become disheartened, but we must keep our faith. He says, there are seldom, if ever, any hopeless situations, but there are many people who lose hope in the face of some situations. As a vegan movement and as individuals, we have to find our North Star, meaning our aim. Where are we headed? We must refuse to capitulate to the low-level thinking of detractors, naysayers, even people in the vegan movement who don't believe a truly vegan, liberated world is possible. Don't listen to them. Create your own North Star. Strive for the best, which is total liberation for all beings, autonomy and freedom for all. So what blocks us from creating that? Well, we get afraid of speaking up. We start to conform. We want everyone to like us, and we're scared to rock the boat. So I have a few quotes here from some wonderful women. You can read through them. Oh, you know what? For people on the phone, you can't. So self-trust, we know, is the first secret of success. We have a quote here from Betty Davis saying that she was thought to be stuck up. She's not. She wasn't. She said, I was just sure of myself. This is and always has been an unforgivable quality to the unsure. So when you start going deep and finding your own North Star, and if you share it with people, some of them are going to say, you can't do that. They're going to say, that's not possible. No way. That's because those people are coming from disembodied logic and the dominator paradigm, but you need to stay true to you. We have some other quotes here, but I'm going to continue on. So this is all about creating a new paradigm. What is a paradigm? A paradigm is a set of beliefs that creates your lens. So I mentioned the word lens earlier and the way that we perceive the world. If you think of your eyes, some people, you've heard of like rose-colored glasses, right? So the paradigm, it's kind of like an invisible coloring of your perception. It is created by your culture, by the cultural stories, and it reinforces what you believe is possible for you, what you believe is possible for others, for animals. And right now, we are focused on, in this presentation, we are all animal rights people. We all want to create a better world, right? So we have to change our paradigm. We have to change the lens through which we see the world. We must surround ourselves with positivity, with visions of what is possible, and know that we are healers. Know that, as you can see in this image, she has the animals at her feet with her. Their power is a part of the magic energy work that she's doing. You have that power too. You have all the animals, the entire earth mother is working with you. She's talking to you. She is trying to tell you what your next step is on your destiny, whether it be your own personal path or your destiny as an activist, and what you must do to address the urgent needs of these animals who are suffering. So this new paradigm is what we need to focus on. We have to learn how to undo the old paradigm. So I want to explore a little bit about where the old paradigm comes from. It comes from words, symbols, languages, mythology, religion. It's really the stories that we keep hearing. And what you may not realize, for example, if you watch television and movies, is that they're all telling the same stories. There's not really very much new. There's not very much deep thought about really, really radically changing what humans stand for. They're usually the same old tropes, and it's repetitive. So, and they also promote flesh eating. So I was talking about speaking up and speaking your truth. And it's really important that you voice your views when it comes to what's normal for the rest of the culture. Okay, let's talk about love. Love songs. There are very few songs about love in the terms I'm talking about, where it's unconditional love, love for the earth, love for the animals, love for each other. A lot of songs are about heartbreak and kind of like saying things like "I hate you," and a lot of music just reinforces the old paradigm. So we really have to question the words we're using, what we're feeding ourselves, because we digest things not just with our tummies, but we digest things with our minds, with our bodies. The belief systems, the stories get digested and become a part of your entire being. So I have some key terms here. We defined vegan. Vegan is not a diet. A vegan is one who stands for love and seeks to eradicate all use of animals. We also have to consider the way that animals have been othered and seen as different. this plays into the way that we become accustomed to seeing women and other groups. Maybe, for example, here in the US, we think of Muslims as the other, not us on this call, hopefully, but in general, that's what the cultural messaging has been telling us. Patriarchy, when we use that term, we're talking about the rule of men, and it's not rule of men in the sense that there's a conspiracy by males to ruin women's lives and take over the world. Patriarchy occurred, it grew out of unique social circumstances and a unique historical period. It has continued for way too long. It's not necessary for survival. It's not helpful. In fact, it's causing destruction, and we need female leaders. Patriarchy has a whole set of belief systems along with it, and this causes harm to men and women and all beings. So that could be a whole presentation in and of itself. Another word for patriarchy, though, is dominator. We'll get into that a little bit later, but basically, the culture of patriarchy teaches us that it's normal to dominate the weak, that all relationships are basically one of a submissive and one of a dominant, that there's always going to be one winning and one losing. Value hierarchy, basically, that's about the way that we put certain beings at a certain value and other beings not as high. And we kind of have a hierarchy in terms of who matters. Reverence for life, that's a term coined by Albert Schweitzer, which is what veganism is all about. Normalized violence is the framing that I use to understand what we do to animals. It begins to seem like it's normal, so then we start to accept it. When we start to accept the violence against animals, we start to allow the violence against other beings, even allow violence against ourselves because it has been normalized. Dr. Melanie Joy has created this amazing theory called carnism, and she talks about the three ends. And these are the general excuses that humans use to justify eating animals. And they say that it's normal, natural, and necessary, and none of those are true. So, the dominator paradigm is the old way of being. So, if you go back to that slide I had where that beautiful painting had a woman healing the world, she was healing the industrialization and all these animals dying and people looking sad and awful. So that's the dominator paradigm. What we're creating is a partnership paradigm. Dominator paradigm comes from Riane Eisler. She coined the term dominator model to describe the ongoings of patriarchy, because patriarchy doesn't quite name the root way of relating. The main way of relating within patriarchy is dominating. So it's the dominator paradigm is a new way of naming what we see. And this is really important to learn to name the culture and the paradigm, because if you don't name it for what it is, then you're almost so enmeshed in it, like a fish swimming in the water. You don't know, you're not even aware of the water, right? So we're so ensconced in it that we can't even think our way out of it. We just think it's normal. But when you can name it, then you can set it aside and say, okay, so what do we want to create? We want to create a partnership society. So let's talk a little bit about who humans really are. This is what it's all about. Like Lisa said, I believe in the revolutionary power of love. I know that when we all learn to connect to our innate love, which is in every cell of our being, we will change the world. Veganism is an integral part of accessing embodied love, and hopefully you're going to understand why after this. Okay, so I use the word embodied love basically to explain empathy. So I prefer the word love, and empathy doesn't quite get to the full intelligence of every cell. Empathy is part of it. So let's talk about that part. In every cell of your being, there is some kind of response system to what you see and what you experience. If you've ever seen someone stub their toe and you kind of, your body like kind of responds and you go, oh, like almost like it happened to you, right? That's what we call your mirror neurons. So this is part of your neurology, part of your body is that your body actually responds to what it sees as if it's happening to you on some level. So we are literally embodied love. We are made for love because if you enact violent things on others, a part of you is going to hurt. It really is. That's why children who haven't been disconnected yet from their feelings and their bodies and their embodied wisdom, that's why children, almost every child at some point questions, did an animal have to die for this? Or they'll have some bad feelings about eating meat, basically. And that's because they're still connected to their embodied love. So the moral of the story is that we are innately kind and loving beings. The reason we're designed this way is because in order to cooperate and get along with each other, we have to know what's happening in our environment, and we have to care. So Darwin's theory of natural selection and survival of the fittest has been skewed to survival of the meanest, but Darwin actually said those who survive are those who know how to cooperate best. So if we want to not only survive, but thrive and create heaven on earth, we must learn to access our embodied love. So what prevents us from staying in touch with our empathy and our natural love? It's what I call disembodied logic. So because we are naturally feeling beings and we sense the world around us, we can literally feel others' pain in order to live in a world that is so violent. You must disconnect from your feelings. And this is how all atrocities are committed. Because when someone's connected to their body, they don't want to hurt anyone. They really don't. For anyone who still eats meat, they're operating on disembodied logic. So basically, it's a way of disconnecting from your body, going into the mind, finding rationalizations, justifications for why you do what you do. It takes you out of the realm of sensation and feeling and into the realm of thought. It's a way to stay numb and to allow complacency on a personal level and on a collective level. And it's also important to note that when you're operating from disembodied logic, when you're making excuses for eating meat, you're also more susceptible to make excuses for other types of violence, for complacency and pessimism about the world. If you're not really connected to the love and the beauty and the spirit in every cell of your being, the full thriving of all parts of the human, if you're just thinking, you're not going to be very happy and you're not going to be making good choices toward yourself or others. So veganism is so powerful because everything is relationship. From the time you're born, you are learning how to relate to others. You learn how to relate to others, and in that, you learn to relate to yourself in a certain way. If you notice, for example, someone talking mean to someone else, speaking in a mean way, then you'll maybe perhaps have a negative dialogue with yourself. In fact, I view the larger culture kind of like a dysfunctional family system that we all grew up in. And when you're in that dysfunction, you're not aware of it. If you grew up in a family where people use yelling to resolve conflicts and you never know any other way, you're never exposed to any other way, you would just think that that's normal. So that's something that is changeable. Humans are malleable. We can learn a new way of relating. So this is a breakdown of the culture of veganism and the culture of flesh eating. So there's a lot here, but basically veganism is about freedom about connection, about consensual relationships, whereas flesh eating and all animal use is about rape, violence. Anytime you use an animal, you are violating their mobility. So think about how you can stretch your arms right now. Did you know that you are actually incredibly privileged to be able to do that? Did you know that there are more beings who cannot stretch their arms being kept captive? In other words, the animals we eat, who can't do that, who can't move a few inches, right? So their mobility is being restricted. But it's important to note here, the problem is not how demobilized or immobilized they are. The problem is the very basic use of them to begin with, because the people who argue for humane meat or whatever, we know it's not humane to kill someone. It all comes down to killing, right? But they'll say, oh, give them more space. Well, you're making choices for that animal that are way beyond what is actually within your purview. You are deciding, for example, to put a fence in. They can't go beyond that fence. That would be illegal if we did that to humans, fence them in. You're making choices about who their families are and what happens to them. So you can see that really it all comes down to power with. When we partner with nature, partner with the animals, we enhance our ability to live better lives ourselves and to create a better world, versus the old way, which was power over and domination. So there are a bunch of dualities that construct the way that we view the world, that lens, that perception. And this is something you could look into more if you were to study ecofeminism. But basically, we have things that are superior and things that matter more on one side, and then things that matter less on the other. And not only do they matter less, but they're potentially evil. So this comes up in cultural stories. So we have male as the norm and female as the other. So a lot of people think that we've achieved women's rights and women's liberation, and that is so far from being true. If you use the word human, if you use the word man to stand in for human, you're still operating from these dualities. When I say, let's think of a person, do that for a second. Think of a person. Do you see a woman or do you see a man? Because all of our schooling, all of our cultural indoctrination features men as the human, as the norm. Now, this is on top of that, men were seen as more human than women. Women were seen as more connected with animals. In other words, the bad parts of animals, the so-called animal nature. And you can see how this has, this view of animals as inferior has been a part of the way that animals have been constructed as automatons, as the word animalistic. That shows that they are supposedly instinctual. They're not thinking. They're just, irrational, wild beings, that kind of thing. And so women, animals, nature have all been connected and seen as less important and something to dominate and control. The body has been seen as less important than the mind. If you look at the phrase mind over matter, so that generally means thinking your way out of a situation and kind of like getting past whatever's bothering you, the matter. But matter's origin comes from the same root as mother. So the physical aspect of reality has a connection to mother as a word. So when we say mind over matter, that's actually reinforcing the idea that we can think our way out of, back to the disembodied logic, that we can think our way out of the physical world. Transcend the body versus inhabit the body, the fifth one down. So that's very common in religions is, yes, I teach meditation, I love meditation, but a lot of people, when they're trying to meditate, they believe in actually transcending the body and trying to almost like not have any sensations and to get beyond any sense of embodiment. And many religions used the sense of transcendence as a good thing. God was up in the guy. You were almost supposed to like hit yourself, punish yourself, all kinds of rituals involving self-harm, because the body again was connected with the material world. Heaven was up here, and the godly realm was seen as better. Now, when I'm talking about this thought system, this is actually a newer paradigm, and in actuality, early religions honored the female. So this whole set of dualities have come about in the past 2,000 years with the advent of patriarchy. So I could go on and on about that, but maybe we can talk about it in the Q&A if you want. So, because I know it's a lot to kind of understand. So, what does an empowered humanity look like? It means power with. It means that we recognize the law of karma, that how you treat one being comes back to you and affects how you treat everyone else and how they treat you. It's about interconnection. One really important thing, it's about communication, not only verbally with other humans, but listening with your ears and with your whole being to nature, spending time with nature, with the wild animals or any animals you have that are rescued, listening to them, because I will promise you, I bet you, that they are talking to you. They have a message for you. Notice what animals show up in your life. Notice what birds you're seeing. Look into animal totems. They have a message. So it's all about love, but love includes so much. We've been misinformed by our culture that love is, some kind of sappy, romancy thing, and it's just about sex, sexual love for the opposite sex. But really, this new definition of love that veganism helps us experience and really learn on a deep level is about all of these things: cooperation, compassion, levity, joy, laughter. We want the animals to be happy. We want them to be playing and frolicking again, just as we want ourselves to be. So, veganism also brings about personal transformation on all levels, and that's something you can learn more about if you would be interested. I have a course coming up. I'm actually going to do a pilot course, a quick kind of like 6-week course, kind of to test out something I've been working on for a few years. I just finished a rough draft last spring of my book, Embodied Love, The Vegan Path of Transformation. And basically, I bring together everything I've learned about how to create change, along with what I know about veganism and its power to transform our sense of ourselves. So we'll have a section on our feelings, on our mind, on our body temple, relationship with the earth, and spirituality, and how you can create change using all of these techniques. And so let me know if you're interested in that. That will be starting in the next few weeks. And then in the springtime, I will have actually a real course. By then, you won't be able to get the discount. But right now, I'm going to give it almost for free because I want your feedback and I want to improve it. And then I'll have that book out hopefully in 2018. And so we have the power to create transformation. And I want you to take a look here. I'm wearing a butterfly. Those are butterflies there. When a butterfly metamorphizes, if you have a little caterpillar and you actually look at the process of metamorphosis, before she becomes a butterfly, it is complete soup. It completely dissolves. So what we must do as individuals and as humanity is completely dissolve our old ways of thinking and learn a new way of embodied love. So may we all embody love so that all life may flourish. I want to mention to you that I have a free gift for you. This is a meditation here. If you go to that link, and a gentle deer will take you into an enchanted forest, and she's going to take you to a love well to access your inner wisdom. And then also, if any of you are not yet vegan, I highly encourage you to do this 21-day vegan kickstart. They're going to support you on becoming a vegan and getting on the vegan path. So that link is right there as well. And I think we are ready for questions.
Hey, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your amazing presentation, Charlotte. It was very
Thank you.
eye-opening, and I appreciate the details that you shared about the paradigm and what it means to have a paradigm and how to go about shifting it, and also the power of veganism as part of this new paradigm of embodied love. So
Thank
I'd like
you.
to invite folks. We're going to offer an opportunity for people to uh, ask questions, and there's a few different ways to do that. So, and Charlotte, you can, if you turn off your or change your screen sharing
Oh,
into the regular, then we'll
oh,
be able to have.
do you want to leave? Oh, turn the screen share off.
Yes, please.
Okay.
and and then what we'll do is we'll have an opportunity for
I just
people
want to make
to.
sure everyone had a chance to get the links really quick.
Oh, okay, great. And for some people are actually on the phone, other people are
Oh,
on on
okay. Okay,
Facebook
then you know
Live.
what
So
I
it's a
should
little.
say. Yeah, so the link is charlottecressey.com/free gift. And then if you want to find the vegan kickstart, all you have to do is Google 21-day vegan kickstart.
Fabulous. Thanks so much. This is
Thank
great.
you.
All these resources. And so what we'll do for the remainder of the program is just have an opportunity for anyone who wants to ask a question. If you're on the phone with us, and some people are, you can press *4 if you'd like to ask a question with your voice to unmute yourself. And if you're with us and you're one of the participants on the webinar, you can turn your audio on or your webcam and ask a question that way. If you're with us on Facebook Live, you can type the question into the comments section and we will answer the question there. So I just wanted to have a moment or so to see if anyone had any questions for Charlotte. I know some of these concepts may be new and there's so much to talk about, but we'll have just a few moments here if anybody has anything they're wanting to reach out and say. And I'm going to go ahead and change, let's see, Susan, I'm not sure. There's someone named Susan who's on the webinar with us. I don't know if you wanted to ask a question or not. I noticed that there's that you may be sharing your webcam. Sometimes when people do that, it means that they want to ask a question. So you're welcome to if you have one. And I'll go ahead, just unmute her just in case. Oh, no, I think there we go. So, and another thing I wanted to mention that I saw on the Facebook Live, which is people are very excited about what you're sharing. Charlotte, one person mentioned a fantastic book that deals with some of the issues about women and earth exploitation, and the author is Rosemary Redford Ruther.
Ruther. Yes.
Yes. So that
She's
was.
like, yeah, she's like the mother of ecofeminism.
Oh,
Well,
great.
one of
Well,
them, one of them.
and they folks are really responding to your concept of disembodied logic, that how interesting that is, and it connects with the concept of disembodied economies where leaders are not in the same country as the workers. So that's one example of that. So that was also kind of exciting. One person mentioned a concern about people. I know you were talking about ways that we can be advocates and also be welcoming and be kind. And there was some concern about some of the strife, where if activists are being contentious with one another. And some of the values that you mentioned as key and important are about communication.
Right, absolutely. And I think that what is actually most empowering and energizing for each of us, because it's important to do activism that gives us energy too. And what's most energizing is what your heart is called to. So I'm not telling people you should do this kind of activism or you should do that kind. I think we have to all follow our own path, and at the same time, not, you don't want to go fight with people and tell them you should be doing this. However, it is very important to question the mainstream ways of doing activism, ask questions about how they're being influenced by our consumer culture. Do we believe that advertisements showing the objectification of women actually furthers, as in PETA? Sorry, I had to put that in there. Does that further the cause of empathy and love and kindness toward animals, or is that the same old story? And then we're just trying to get attention and then thinking we're going to help animals somehow. So I do think it's important to question things and that dialogue is essential. There's a way to communicate and have these discussions where it doesn't have to become contentious, to do it with
Thank
love.
you. Yeah, that goes along with the philosophy that you're sharing with us
Exactly.
about embodying love.
Yeah.
Another person commented about uh, a gal, Susan Griffin, who is wrote a book called Women and Nature, something along those lines. But the author is Susan Griffin. I
Yep.
don't know if
Yeah.
that's
I think
if
she's great. I think Rosemary's great. They're not vegans, so they don't bring it together in the way that I do. But yeah,
Okay.
Susan's a teacher at my school. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's something very unique that you bring, is that integrating of veganism and ecofeminism. It's so important to bring them together and also to understand how the philosophies are symbiotic.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We did have another question, and this
Hmm.
is about how to sign up for the class that you're offering. So I can
Oh,
put, I know it's on your website, so we can mention that again for people.
well, I meant to tell them to sign up, just email me, just go to my website and go to my contact form. If you just Google Charlotte Cressey, you'll find my website, charlottecressey.com. Go to the contact form, send me an email, let me know you're interested.
Fabulous. So I just typed that into the chat box for anyone
Thank
who's
you.
communicating with us there. And let's see, I'll include that also on our Facebook Live for anyone who happens to be on that as well. I'll put this in here too. Okay, just in case anybody wants to do that. And I wanted to take a moment. I know we're coming towards the end of our webinar, and I wanted to thank you so very much. This has been so exciting to have you as part of our sustainable activism series. And for those people who don't know, we provide emotional and spiritual resources for animal activists. And one of the ways we do that is we have a support line for activists that you can call if you're feeling a sense of disembodied logic, or if you're feeling
Right.
down, or if you've had a conflict with another activist, or perhaps just with other people at your work or in your family due to your vegan values, you're welcome to give us a call. And the number there is 800-705-0425. And you'll have a counselor on the other end of the phone who is well equipped to provide you with compassionate listening tools and also resources. We have a whole resource list on our website that is for activists. We call it our activist resource list, and you can access that by going to our sustainable activism campaign, and you'll see a whole section on resources. So this webinar is another one of those resources, and we do have next week we'll have another webinar for vegan spirituality. We'll have an expert on Tibetan Buddhism who's going to share some more about how the values in those traditions also work in symbiosis with veganism. So this is all exciting news. And another thing that we do is we have an activist support group, which is generally the fourth Thursday of the month. If you don't know about this, we have an animal activist online support group, which is a Facebook group that you can tune into. It has that exact name, and if you search for that, you can join it. And the group is made up of activists from all over the world, and we talk about what is it like to be an activist. We offer each other support. There are no graphic images on that page, so it's a nice place to hang out, a nice safe place for activists. So again, thanks to everyone for joining us. I'm going to check our chat box one more time because I have a
Thank you,
feeling
Lisa, so
there's
much. Thank
lots
you
of
for all you do.
lots of thanks here.
Amazing.
People are sharing that's so interesting, and that also one person shares that she met you, uh, Charlotte, at the World Vegan Summit, and that was Kathy who shared that. And people are saying thank you. It was a wonderful webinar. I just want to pass on that
Thank
positive
you all for
feedback.
all you do. You all give me hope, and together we will have heaven on earth.
Oh, and that's such a lovely way to close. It's it's such a beautiful concept, and I appreciate you so much, Charlotte, for bringing it to us.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate you.
may we all vision that each day
Yes.
so that we can all manifest it in this world. Thank you very much. And I hope
Blessed
everyone
be.
has a lovely evening. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.